Hello, good morning, everyone, and hello to everyone who's also joining us online today. I'm Daisy Hessenberger. I work with the Ecosystems Program at the International Union for the Conservation of Nature on things such as nature-based solutions or disaster risk reduction. And so I'm very excited today to have the pleasure to present Egline Tawuya. She'll be speaking today about gender-disaggregated data, which is very exciting for me to hear because I'm not on the gender program in IUCN, but we have a gender program and we're looking into collaborations with them. So Egline is the head of the Environment and Water Institute at SARDC in Zimbabwe. She flew here for quite a distance away. And she has a background in environment and development with studies working mainly in Southern Africa.
I'll just give a brief background of what Southern African Research and Documentation Center is. This is a regional independent organization which mainly focus on research that informs development, and we cover the whole of Southern Africa, the SADC region, which is now 16 countries, including the island states, Mauritius, Seychelles, and Madagascar. And we document, analyze, assess, and report on environmental issues, economic issues, gender issues, and produce trends and analysis and outlooks looking into the future. So we pursue the research and reporting through a specific institutes. One of it is the Environment Institute, which is the India Msokotwana Environment Resource Center for Southern Africa. And we also have a special program on gender institute, which is we now call it the Beyond Inequalities. We used to call it Women in Development, but decided to change it to Beyond Inequalities to look beyond just comparing equalities. And we work with partners, and we are a collaborating center of UN Environment, and we produce Southern Africa Environment Outlooks, which feeds into the Africa Environment Outlook and the Global Environment Outlook. We are also a collaborating center of Grid Arundel, and we produce atlases of the changing environment. We have so far produced 3 atlases: the Zambezi Atlas, the Limpopo Atlas. We are currently in the process of producing the Okavango Atlas. All these atlases look at what is changing in the environment and what can be done. We are also looking at gender analysis, and I'm going to present on our experience on gender disaggregated data in natural resource management. And yesterday, the UN Deputy Secretary Amina spoke strongly about gender disaggregated data. And I wondered, are we really there yet? And it looks like after so many years of gender being spoken about, the Beijing, after the Beijing, it's now Beijing plus 20, you can still find people asking what is gender. So what is really the problem? Is it because it is not being well explained? Is it because people, there's no willingness, commitment on mainstreaming gender? What is the missing link? So we are going to look at, also to talk about what should be done. Is it because we are not collecting the gender disaggregated data? Is it because we are not identifying the good practices? And I'll end up with some key messages. From our experience of assessment and reporting, we have noted that the existing gender disaggregated data is scattered and is often not easily accessible, and at times it is not easy to process, and also it is not analyzed well. And again, if we look at the recent produced Global Gender Environment Outlook, which has been produced by UNEP, by UNEP, it only has 17 indicators, which are a bit limited in terms of covering all the areas of gender disaggregated data, which is required in environment issues. So even though there is some efforts being done, it's not yet adequate. So a lot of work is still required in collecting analysis and interpreting and disseminating gender disaggregated data. There's still also a gap in documentation of lessons learned and in engaging all groups which are involved in natural resource management. If you look at the current reports, including this Sustainable Development Goals reports and the joint monitoring program for the water, most of them, they are not capturing the gender disaggregated data adequately. You find in the current SDG report, which is the 2018 report, it produces analysis of in the water sector. It says 3 in 10 people lack access to safely managed drinking water services. But it doesn't go further to say, of these 3, how many are men, how many are women? I think there's need to go further to that analysis to really show that how many are being affected and in terms of who is being affected. It also says that 6 in 10 people lack access to safely managed sanitation facilities, but it doesn't go further to say how many of these 6 are women, how many of these 6 are men. I think there's need to go further to that analysis. It also goes further to look at the people who are affected by ambient air pollution. It only says 4.2 million people died from ambient air pollution. That is in 2016. But of the 4.2 million, how many are they? How many are women? How many are men? I think that analysis is important. And it again looks at the damage to houses due to natural disasters, but doesn't really show who are being affected most. Are they women or men or children? So that further analysis is important. As I've said, people still question why having gender analysis, why is it important? And I think it's because if we don't have this analysis, it reduces replication of good practices if we don't collect gender disaggregated data. And again, without collection of gender disaggregated data, it is not possible to fully monitor and measure actual progress towards the realization of water, climate, environment, and other natural resources global commitments, especially if we look at the SDGs 6, which talks about water issues, 13 climate change, and the 15 on environment. And from our research, we've noted that where both men and women are involved in decision making in natural resource management, positive results have been achieved. And thus, there's need for that the evidence-based data on gender mainstreaming, so that it then informs the policy making. Statistics from our experience has also shown that there is a high economic cost when women are not more fully integrated in their respective national economies. And the time and energy devoted to water collection alone is considerable, and is estimated that in 15 countries which we have surveyed, women spend a combined total of at least 16 million hours each day collecting water alone, compared to men who've spent only 6 million hours. So you see, a lot of, hours are spent by women collecting just water. And yet, this kind of work is normally unpaid work. And therefore, there's a drain in, there's an enormous drain of labor and resources. The gains from secure, sustainable, and modernized access to water could potentially transform the economies of most of these countries, which have women spending a lot of time collecting water, for example. And if you look at, these are some of the activities which they do, which is not even considered. It is unpaid. And against this background, we have decided at SARDC to go a little bit further from what we used to do. We normally do our assessment and reporting using the secondary data, but we have decided to go further than that, to also really doing the practical collection of the data. And one of our projects on gender analysis is the evidence-based gender mainstreaming in natural resource management. The main objective of this project is that sustainable utilization and management of natural resources is strengthened through promoting gender responsive planning and design, monitoring and evaluation. And the expected impact from that project is that livelihoods are improved through gender responsive policies and decision-making processes in transboundary water management. This project involves collecting data at micro level. As I've said, we normally focus on collecting data which has been from reports which have been produced already, but this time we have decided to go further into the field to collect data at micro level, at community level. And we've selected some indicators that are gender disaggregated data, which really probe the community to give us information which is gendered. And the indicators, they really give information on who is responsible for what and with what effects and who benefits. So the methods review who participates, who benefits, who is most affected, and how. We also use methodologies which include providing a platform for both men and women to participate freely. Then that includes having targeted focus group discussions where we interrogate women on their own so that they really say out their views and not being influenced by men. We also do that separately for the men. And we have noted that there is quite a lot of information which you can get from the women if they are not grouped together with the men. We also do targeted interviews where we then specifically target key informants and probe them on what exactly is happening in natural resource management, and they really give us information which is vital. And we also probe the men separately as well. Here we were asking the men whether what the women had said, because the women had said that our voices are heard whenever we say out our views. The men accept our decisions and the decisions are taken on board. So we then also went to the men and say, is this what the women are saying correct? And they said, yes, that is correct. We don't consider who is saying that, whether it's a man or a woman. We take the decisions on board. We also do observations, looking at what is happening on the ground. Here we observed a women extension officer who is responsible for directing the farmers and also making sure that the environment is managed well. And we could actually see that, yes, women makes a difference if they are being involved. We also identify some best practices which then really show that something is happening if we mainstream gender. And it also helps in replicating these good practices. This project involves producing an effective practice booklet, which would then be disseminated at different levels so that good practices are then taken aboard and upscaled as well. It also involves recording videos of what is happening on the ground, and so that it also encourages other communities. We intend also to build capacity of the communities to collect gender disaggregated data by themselves, so that they are involved in the collection of the data. And we are in the process of creating a gender disaggregated portal where we'll be recording the activities happening in terms of natural resource management on the ground, and that will be a live portal which will then collect the data regularly. We already have one which is focusing on mainstreaming gender in renewable energy resources, and we want to take the similar approach to do that for the natural resource management. I would say some key messages to take home are that collection, documentation, assessing and reporting on gender disaggregated data is key to sustainable utilization and management of natural resources and the attainment of the SDG targets. Both men and women are affected differently on issues, for example, climate change, and they've got different roles, and therefore there's a need to find solutions to this. Hence, gender disaggregated data is important. There is huge economic costs for not mainstreaming gender in natural resource management, and there is need for pilot projects on gender disaggregated data in natural resource management, and identifying effective practices for gender mainstreaming in natural resource management is key to promote replication. There is considerable evidence that women have shorter hours of rest than men, that gender roles are becoming more flexible, and that environmental degradation increases women's workload, yet such important data is hardly captured. There's need for sub-regional gender and environment outlooks to feed into the global gender and environment outlook, which has been produced recently in 2016, so that we reduce the scale from the global to go to the sub-regional and also maybe to the national level. There is also need to support research on gender disaggregated collection, and governments and multilateral donors should support further initiatives to improve, adapt, collect, and extend gender disaggregated data collection and analysis in the natural resource management. Thank you.
From South Africa. I think one was excited when the gender and environment, the global outlook was released, and as part of your key messages, you reflect on the need for regional and sub-regional feeding process in the global process. I think my question is more related to if we do have an understanding of how the global process, the reporting process, the time frames, whether it's a continuous thing or whether it was a once-off event, so that when we also do at country level, we have that understanding that there is this global process that exists and it's going to happen on a frequent basis, and therefore we also need to start collecting data in relation to gender, because I work on the program of producing the country environment outlook report. But unfortunately, we're not at the point where we are able to reflect gender-related data in our environment outlook report. But it's just one thing that we need to pick up. But just to understand whether the system it's formal in a way, or whether it was a once-off system so that we know how to fit in and participate in such a process.
Okay, thank you. I was looking for someone from UN Environment. Unfortunately, there's none. Yes, yeah. So I think you are the best person to answer that question, because from my point of view, this was a new initiative, and I'm not very sure whether it's going to be a continuous process or it's a once-off, but I would wish that it becomes a continuous process.
Thank you for the question. I'll try and give you a response. Once upon a time, I was a gender focal point in our division. And at that time, it was the time when we started planning the gender outlook. We are in the hands of the donors because we've been giving money. We don't know what will happen right now. But I can keep you posted before Union 4 what the plans are on the next gender outlook. Is that acceptable? Thank you.
My name is Eglin Hawea. I have a question. You mentioned that the data already exists, but it's not actually analyzed. Is there anything that can be done with the existing data that will actually help to answer the questions and define the problems that you stated?
I would say yes. There's some existing data, but what is lacking is the capacity to really analyze that data to make it gender disaggregated, and because this is an area which has not been focused. In terms of, if you look at most of the reports, the global reports, they just say so many people have been affected by such and such, but there is not that analysis of saying of these people, how many of these are women, how many are men. So that kind of further analysis is necessary, and I think it's very easy to do that, to go that further, because the statistic of the census report, for example, in Zimbabwe, the information is collected at household level, and they actually collect the number of people in the household. But then later the data is then aggregated. So if it is left in that raw state, I think that would assist to have the gender disaggregated data.
I wonder if you've looked at all at gender and protected areas, either in terms of how women and men are involved in making decisions about protected areas, or in how women and men benefit from protected areas. Thanks very much.
Okay, yes, we look at that analysis to say how are women being involved in protecting, for example, the wetlands. And you can be surprised that in terms of wetlands, women are very, very active, and wherever they are involved, you find the wetlands, they are much more in a better state. And in terms of benefiting as well, the women benefit quite a lot if they are given the chance to manage the wetlands. They have got different, benefits in terms of using the resources available. For example, using the reeds for basket making, using the wetlands for fishing, for so many other things which benefit them. So yes, we do that analysis as well.
We do survey, youth survey, and we measure one topic related to the awareness of environment. And the result, there is significant difference between men and women. women much more than men, they have awareness related to environment topics and also energy consumption and energy topics. Even the application of women much, as example, when we talk about recycling of waste, other things, they are much more advanced than men. I talk about big sample. So, is this applicable and relate to your topic, or you talk about something different? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I think it's quite related to what we are talking about and what we assess in our environment as we are reporting, because yes, you are right that women are much more aware in terms of managing the environment, and they have got quite indigenous knowledge, which is very useful in terms of managing the natural resources. So yes, it's quite related.
Even we do work sometime with called urban agriculture, and also women take care much more than men in this survey. It is supported by Canada, and there is office in Washington, USA, just for this subject called urban agriculture. And mainly, and it is a lot of published publication related to this field, mainly women much more advanced than men.
Yeah, I think that was more of a comment.
Yes, Amar, if you can hear us, would you like to put your question? We can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Oh yes, I just wanted to add to the presentation that there are legal and there are legal frameworks that are in place that can facilitate collection of that gender-disaggregated data in Southern Africa. We have the gender protocol and so forth. They all specify the way of collecting such data to enable decision making. Yes, that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you. That's my colleague in Zimbabwe. Thank you, Atma.